Keystones to Opportunity, Pennsylvania's Vision for Sustainable Growth in Reading Achievement. Let us review the Keystones to Opportunity grant components. The grant covers literacy development from birth to the 12th grade. Pittsburgh Public Schools has targeted grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 11. There are 8 KtO literacy specialists supporting all the schools in the district. These specialists are to provide RTII and core curriculum support where necessary. KtO Professional Development trainings occur monthly and are to be turned around in each building by the participants who attend the training. New this year are the Dibbles Next components in the grade assessments, which is a diagnostic assessment aligned with the Common Core state standards. The HEAT classroom observations are a non-evaluative method of collecting evidence of students' engagement with higher order thinking skills, student learning, authentic connections, and the use of technology. It is important to remember that Keystones to Opportunity Grant is to build sustainability at the awareness level in year 1 as we transition to the Common Core state standards. The Keystones to Opportunity Grant is funded under the Federal Striving Readers Comprehensive Literacy Program. Its goal is to have a vision for sustainable growth in reading achievement based on 3 major keystones. They are improving literacy learning outcomes to increase achievement of students in danger of academic failure, creating a culture of data-driven decision-making using Bernhardt's multiple measures of data that we learned in our first KtO Professional Development Session, and infusing digital technology in Universal Design for Learning, UDL, to address student learning challenges that we discussed in our second KtO Professional Development training. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has developed a comprehensive literacy plan that each individual school district can use when writing their own comprehensive literacy plan. This slide represents the heart of the plan. The plan has a mission and vision statement. The plan has 5 guiding principles. It starts with literacy as the foundation for all learning. There are multiple perspectives, such as linguistic perspectives, cultural perspectives, and personal perspectives, that are taken into account. It believes in high expectations for all learners. Decisions are based on evidence. And finally, 21st century teaching and learning will prepare students for the challenges of the 21st century and enable them to achieve their personal and professional goals. The 6 essential elements that support literacy development from birth through grade 12 are: goals are based on standards, and understanding that oral language is crucial in future literacy development, that there are multiple measures of effective assessment. Engaging students in helping to build resiliency is evident from birth through 12th grade. Differentiated instruction is designed to provide the necessary scaffolding for student success, and the discipline literacy approach is used to help our students engage in rigorous, complex text discussions and writings that are required in the Common Core state standards. Today's professional development topic is building blocks of literacy. In this, the 3rd KtO Professional Development Training module required by the PA Comprehensive Literacy Plan, we continue our work at the awareness level as we transition from PA-eligible content to Common Core state standards. The goals of the session are to identify, articulate, and reflect upon the key skills of early literacy development. They are oral language, phonological awareness, phonics, orthography, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, and writing. To explain the key skills of early literacy development using Scarborough's rope and the 4-part processing system, and to identify the critical components of an effective literacy environment. The teaching of reading is rocket science. Think about what processes you have to do while reading a passage. In your participants guide, locate the passage written by DeHane in 2009 titled "Reading in the Brain: The New Science of How We Read." While reading the passage, think about what you have to know and be able to do to read and comprehend this passage. Please take a couple of minutes to complete the reading now. You can pause now. Now turn to someone nearby and explain some of the things you had to do to comprehend the passage. You can pause now. Some of your discussion might have involved the necessary function between the eye and the brain to process letters to sounds and words to gather meaning from the words to construct understanding of the passage. Perhaps you had to reread the passage 1 or more times. Share with your group other things you had to do to comprehend the passage. You can processors involved in the complex task of reading. Let's discuss them. The phonological processor, located in the front of the brain, processes the sounds of speech and pronunciation. The orthographic processor, located in the back of the brain, processes written symbols. These two systems connect midway where sound-symbol connections are formed. That's where phonics is learned. The orthographic and phonological systems must then be wired into a meaning processor so that readers can put meaning to the phonics patterns that were decoded into words. The context processor further helps the brain to process meaning by using the context or sentences in which the individual words are used. All of this language comprehension occurs in the left cerebral hemisphere. Now let's look at these four processors in chart form to better understand this four-part process necessary for the complex task of reading. The phonological processor, located in the front of the brain, processes the sounds of speech and pronunciation. The orthographic processor, located in the back of the brain, processes written symbols. These two systems connect midway where sound-symbol connections are formed. That's where phonics is learned. The orthographic and phonological systems must then be wired into a meaning processor so that readers can put meaning to the phonics patterns that were decoded into words. The context processor further helps the brain to process meaning by using the context or sentences in which individual words are used. All of this language comprehension occurs in the left cerebral hemisphere. This four-part process was engaged when you read the article Reading in the Brain, the New Science of How We Read. Now, with an awareness level understanding of this four-part processing system, let's see how the Common Core State Standards are addressing this combination of literacy skills. One of the key skills of early language development is oral language. What is oral language? It is the reception and expression of pragmatic, semantic, syntactical, morphological, and phonological aspects of language. It involves speaking and listening. Oral language facilitates reading and writing by developing listening comprehension and expressive vocabulary. As you watch the video, Children of the Code, think about what the research is telling us about the importance of oral language development. Please pause to watch the video now. What did you learn research is telling us about the importance of oral language development? Please share with your group. You can pause now. There will be further professional development on parent engagement in future training sessions. Keep in mind that we can help to facilitate oral language development in the time the children are in school with us beyond the environmental factors that we can't control. Let's look at restricted speech versus elaborated speech. Restricted speech is brief, unelaborated speech. It assumes shared situational background knowledge and is more prevalent in homes with less education. Elaborated speech increases the use of explicit content knowledge, is less dependent on shared situational knowledge, and is more prevalent in homes with higher levels of education. In the Children of the Code video, restricted speech was referred to as business talk. Elaborated speech was referred to as chit-chat or commentary. Research tells us that low-income, less educated households have less talk. The majority of talk they do have tends to be business talk, restricted speech. The higher the income and more educated the household, the talk is more elaborated or conversational talk, chit-chat, or elaborated speech. Research also tells us in higher income households, business talk remains the same as lower income households. It's the elaborated speech or conversational speech that increases. The elaborated speech helps build a child's background knowledge. By the time they are 4, low-income household children have heard about 32 million words less than high-income households. Consider how you can facilitate elaboration across the experiences within the school day. So how can we support oral language development in our classrooms? We can recast the student's response. We can take a student's response and repeat it as a complete sentence using correct pronunciation and grammar. And we may choose to incorporate additional information. This is the model our students need to hear. To increase student engagement, we might consider utilizing students if they are able to provide this mature model. We can focus activities that develop speaking, listening, and conversational skills all at the same time. This can be facilitated during accountable talk formats as well as during transitions, morning messages, and other opportunities throughout the day. We should always encourage students to answer and complete sentences while making eye contact with whom they are speaking. We should also encourage the use of affirming gestures and other positive body language signals. Speaking in complete sentences, as well as being asked to elaborate those sentences, is imperative if students are expected to write incomplete sentences and read and comprehend complex sentence structures. We are all charged with this instruction. There is an academic language that needs to be used and modeled during the school day. Another way we can support oral language within the school day is to have a language-centered classroom. Take a moment to read what this type of classroom might look like and feel like. You can pause now. You might consider striding down the corridor instead of walking down the hallway, throwing trash in the trash receptacle, calling your classroom helpers assistants, paper passers, distributors, and office runners, ambassadors. Use rare words whenever possible. Celebrates children's use of them as well. Let's turn our discussion to phonological awareness. We say phonological awareness can be done in the dark, meaning it's different from phonics, which needs an orthographic symbol representation. Phonemic awareness is just manipulating sounds. It is comprised of activities such as rhyming, cat, bat, sat, identifying the first sound heard in a word, in mat, identifying the syllables in a word, butterfly, fly, substituting sounds in words, say, sang, replace ang with ing. What word did you make? Sing. Now turn and talk to someone nearby and discuss how phonological development differs from oral language. You can pause now. One possible answer might be the phonological awareness is working with sounds at the word level, whereas oral language holds meaning. The phonological awareness continuum shows us the foundational and prerequisite skills of phonemic awareness. Students must first be able to understand that a sentence is made up of individual words. Then, as their knowledge progresses, they are able to divide words into syllables, onset rhyme, and finally phonemes. Successful readers must be able to easily manipulate phonemes to prepare for phonics instruction. We can use this information to assess and diagnose students' difficulties, and then plan, sometimes by backmapping, in order to deliver the most targeted instruction for students to progress. Once the basic word skills, oral language development, phonological awareness, and phonics and word study are learned and work in conjunction with each other, literacy focus needs to shift to fluency and automaticity, releasing cognition to be successful with making meaning. Please take a moment to review how do students become literate. Please pause now. Once the basic word skills are acquired, we turn our attention to accuracy and fluency. Take a moment to read their definitions. Please pause now. Once all the pieces of the literacy puzzle are in place, word building skills and accuracy and fluency, then text comprehension can take place. Looking deeper into the components of oral reading fluency, we determined that accuracy is the ability to decode words accurately and with appropriate speed. The rate of oral reading, the speed at which one reads, must be appropriate to understand the text, and reading with expression, correct pacing, and appropriate pauses will result in a prosodic reader. All of this work with students needs to be modeled and explicitly taught. Students must be aware of why these areas are important when reading. Children must be given time to decode, 3 to 5 seconds, with encouragement, rather than teachers and peers quickly providing words. We need to explain to students the need to decode accurately and rapidly so that their brain can focus on the meaning of what they read, instead of their brain focusing on how to sound out words. They need to understand that when they decode accurately and rapidly, their brain can focus on understanding, making meaning of the text, and that's called comprehension, the purpose of why we read. Students need to know that reading with prosody should sound like the way we talk, both in our head and aloud, both when reading for enjoyment and when reading for a test, in order to make sense of it all. Take a moment to read this slide. Please pause now. Think back to how this relates to the Children of the Code video and what we know about restricted and elaborated speech. We must be cautious when analyzing weekly and unit tests. the new diagnostic grade assessment, and even interpreting PSSA data. Is it the skill being tested the student doesn't know, or is it that the student could not comprehend the passage well because of unknown meaning of vocabulary used within that passage? We will never be able to teach all of the vocabulary that students need to know in the text that they read, but we can be cautious about labeling problem areas. This reminds us of what we learned in the multiple measures PD session, that we need to consider multiple measures when making instructional decisions. Explicit vocabulary teaching must be a never-ending pursuit in our work with students across all times of the day and across all content areas. Vocabulary is also a reliable predictor and is highly correlated with IQ and academic success. Again, as with oral language teaching, we are all charged with the responsibility of this instruction. So what are some possible components of an effective vocabulary program? Take a moment to read over these suggestions. Please pause now. We realize that copying definitions out of dictionaries and glossaries is not explicit teaching and is most often a waste of time. Posting words, encouraging and celebrating their use, the use of visual clues whenever possible, are examples of better strategies for vocabulary acquisition. Let's look at Scarborough's reading rope. Skilled reading is attained when many subskills are done with automaticity. The graphic of the rope illustrates for us that these strands must all interact in combination. Fluent reading depends upon automatic execution of both word recognition and language comprehension. Notice that the three skills of word recognition, represented as fibers, are braided together, and the 5 skills of language comprehension are spiraled together. What do you think that infers? Turn and talk to someone nearby. Please pause now. One possible answer might be that word recognition skills are very interdependent and must work in conjunction with each other. They can and should be explicitly taught. Skills in language comprehension are more widely dependent on each person's background experience. Some can be explicitly taught, but students bring varying levels of knowledge into our classrooms. We need to work to find common ground in this area. When braided word recognition skills and the spiraled language comprehension skills are joined to form Scarborough's rope, fluent execution and coordination of word recognition and text comprehension results in skilled reading. And after all, comprehension is the ultimate goal of a skilled reader. Let's review some facts we know about comprehension success. Comprehension builds upon existing reading knowledge, including word recognition and language structures, known as Scarborough's rope. Students also need strong oral language, including vocabulary and listening comprehension and background knowledge. Students need rich exposure to literature. They need opportunities to be challenged and motivated by the text. Let us conclude our training on the building blocks of literacy by watching the video, Teaching Content is Teaching Reading. You can pause now. Now turn to a teacher not charged with teaching English language arts and discuss what implications are there for their instruction throughout the day. How does this better their understanding of what they do as instructors during RTII? Where might they find opportunities during their instruction to provide opportunities for what we have learned today? And for that matter, where are there opportunities for each of us to help our students become better readers based upon what we have learned? This is an interesting table analyzing growth in reading and how children spend their time. When time permits, you might find it interesting to review. How important is reading instruction? The probability that a child would remain a poor reader at the end of 4th grade if the child was a poor reader at the end of 1st grade was 0.88. The probability that a child would become a poor reader in 4th grade if he or she had at least average reading skills in 1st grade was 0.12. The evidence in this example of children indicates that poor 1st grade readers almost invariably remain a poor reader by the end of 4th grade. The Pittsburgh Public Schools have done a lot of work in reading first and developing our response to instruction and intervention models based on this research. Unless we provide the intervention when and where necessary, we will be doing an injustice to those children who need help. Ask yourself, what can and will you do to intervene so this doesn't occur for our students?